There's a certain thrill to getting scared, whether it be a small jump or that heart-pounding feeling of pure terror. Video games can be a great platform for a scary experience, but it can be difficult to pull off. The horror genre is one of my favorites, so today on Nostalgia or Not, I'm going to try survival horror classic Silent Hill 2 for the very first time. Alone. In the dark. Are the scares just nostalgia? Or am I going to be needing a new pair of pants? Silent Hill 2 was released on the PlayStation 2 in late 2001. You play as the character James Sunderland, who travels to the town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his wife to meet her at their special place on the lake. There's only one catch. His wife Mary, well, she's been dead for 3 years, and even though James is aware of this, he still opts to make the trip. So James arrives in the fog-laden town in search of clues, trying to figure out if Mary is actually here, or if it's something much more sinister that has drawn you in. After some exploring, you come to find monsters lurking around every corner, including the main monster, Pyramid Head, who is impervious to all attacks, and who James always seems to catch in the most awkward of situations. If running into monsters wasn't enough, you also meet a doppelganger of your deceased wife, and some other strange and misguided characters who were all called to the town in search of their own answers. The story is really something special, and I believe that the town of Silent Hill is there for James to come to terms with the circumstances surrounding his wife's death. While playing through the story, you find out that it was in fact James who killed his wife. It wasn't a brutal act of murder, but he put her out of her misery after 3 years of battling a terminal illness. I really like how James isn't the standard video game hero. In fact, he isn't really a hero at all. He's just a regular guy who chose to end his wife's suffering, not only to ease her pain, but to selfishly ease his own and try and gain back a normal life. There are multiple endings to this game, and the actions you take throughout will have an effect on the ending you receive. And there are many ways to interpret the story, and that's what makes it so great. Is James being punished by the town in Pyramid Head for his decision to end his wife's life? Or did he just have an unfortunate run-in with a bunch of monsters? In the game, the goal is survival from the physical threats in Silent Hill, but also to see if James can survive mentally and move on from his crime, or be consumed by his guilt, never to leave again. The story was the shining star of this game, but it's backed by some entertaining and truly frightening gameplay. The spooky atmosphere of this game immediately makes you uneasy. From the moment you start, you realize that everywhere is either covered in a dense fog, darkness, or low lighting. It makes for a tense situation, especially when you hear the monsters in the distance, but you can't quite see them yet. On the bright side, James is equipped with a radio that will transmit static when a monster is getting closer. This gives you enough time to decide whether you should fight the threat or run away. Eventually, you get a few basic guns, but ammunition is limited and you never really feel overpowered, making the game much more about survival and less about firepower. The feeling of helplessness when encountering a few monsters with only a few rounds is what raises the scare factor. Running away can be a viable option in a lot of situations, but in tight corridors with multiple monsters, you'll have to fight, and it will get your heart racing. There are only a few boss fights, and many fell a bit flat because of how short they were. Although I did enjoy how the bosses never had the overused gimmick of having multiple forms. Combat plays a large role in the game, but so does finding your way around the town and completing puzzles. The puzzles are never too cryptic, but they're not too easy either. Completing a challenging puzzle gave me a nice feeling of accomplishment. If they're too hard or too easy, you have the option of toggling difficulty throughout the game. You often have to search for multiple keys or other objects to advance to the next room, which can start to feel a little monotonous because every door seems to be locked. James will turn his head in the direction of items in a room, which is a real nice touch, and can be helpful in case you miss an important item that you need to progress. The controls take a lot of getting used to. Often these controls are referred to as tank controls, and I can see why. They feel very similar to early Resident Evil games. Whichever way James is facing on screen, you have to press up in order to move forward. You also must come to a complete stop in order to use your weapons. It's the worst part about the game, but you can overcome them after a bit of playing. For the PlayStation 2, this game looks great. The graphics never take you out of the game, and that's all I'm really asking for. The human characters look pretty good in cutscenes and gameplay, but at times, James's facial expressions were even scarier than the monsters. If you're outside in a wide open space, the landscape will be covered in a fog. This can be a bit disorienting, which may be by design, but it gave me a bit of motion sickness. It was especially noticeable when you're rowing the boat onto Luca Lake or running down one of the big streets in the town. This game has some extremely terrifying enemy design. Pyramid Head and the nurse really freaked me out as they popped up out of nowhere. While I do like the designs of the monsters, there really wasn't enough variety, and some of the monsters barely made much of an appearance at all, particularly the ones that hung from the metal grates on the floor. The audio in this game is a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, the in-game sound effects and the music fit with the overall presentation, but on the other hand, the voiceovers during cutscenes can be cheesy and dated. However, the story really holds your attention in spite of the poor voice acting. None of the music here really sticks out, but that's okay because it's really just here to heighten the tension, and it executes that really well. There are also times when there is silence, except for footsteps, breathing, or noises in the distance. The absence of music itself become a part of what makes this game so eerie. So is this game's popularity simply due to nostalgia? After my first playthrough, I'd say not. Even 15 years later, Silent Hill 2 is an excellent survival horror game, and a must-play for those who haven't. The graphics, gameplay, sound are some of the best the PS2 has to offer. It never relies on jump scares or intense gore to terrify you. Its atmosphere and its morbid story really freak you out and leave you emotionally drained by the time you're done. I played this one in the dark, and it really amplified the anxiety and really made it difficult to sleep at night. So if you're not afraid to be afraid, give Silent Hill 2 a try. Thanks for watching, everybody, and remember, it's all fun and games.